Today's episode of the Bill Simmons Podcast on the Ringer Podcast Network, brought to you by ZipRecruiter. What if a QB completed 80% of his passes? What if a point guard hit 80% behind the arc? Trae Young did that for about 3 weeks, and then he went in a slump. Well, when you're hiring, you can play at that level because 80% of the employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. Their powerful technology distributes your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards and identifies the right people with the right experience and invites them to apply to your job. My listeners can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/BS. Meanwhile, SeatGeek is the best app for buying and selling tickets to sporting events, concerts, and more. And this is a nice time to buy tickets for stuff. You get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase on any game or sporting event for NBA, NHL, baseball, whatever, anything. You know what to do. Just use promo code BS. Download the SeatGeek app or go right to SeatGeek.com. Today we launched a new podcast on the Ringer Podcast Network. It is called The Recapables. Season 1 of Atlanta was broken down by Amanda Dobbins, Micah Peters, and Allison Herman from The Ringer. It's a very good pod. They gave out some awards for Season 1. More importantly, Season 2, Thursday night on FX. And if you love Atlanta, and you should, I thought it was the best show last year, then you're going to want to listen to this, because right after the show ends on FX, we will post our first episode of Season 2 of The Recapables. And we're going to do that all the way through the Atlanta season. And then guess what? Billions after that. Me and Mallory Rubin, Sunday nights. These are little 18-minute podcasts. Basically, what happened, why did it happen, what'd you think, couple awards, and then we're out. Little post-game show for you. We're doing Atlanta, we're doing Billions, we're doing Westworld over the next 4 months. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to check out theringer.com. If you missed my column about LeBron and Michael Jordan on Friday, it is still on the website. We have a bunch of Oscar stuff coming this week. Pieces from Sean Fennessey and Cam Collins. A bunch of videos that we brought Wesley Morris, my old Grantland teammate, back to LA to shoot a bunch of videos with Sean and Chris Ryan and Amanda Dobbins and Cam Collins. Broke them down into a bunch of different categories. If you remember the Grantland Oscar show that I did in 2014 and 2015 with Wesley and Chris Connolly, it's a little like that. It's not just like who's going to win Best Picture, who's going to win Best Actor, all that stuff. It's more fun subjects that kind of tie into the Oscars. We're running those all week. All you have to do is go to theringer.com, or you can go to the Ringer's YouTube channel. And coming up in a little bit, we're going to have David Shoemaker on first to talk about Ronda Rousey, WWE, all this stuff going on there. And then Sean and Cam and Wesley and I tried to figure out the 2013 Oscars. What would happen if they waived the 5-year waiting period? Oh, no. What would happen if they had a 5-year waiting period? Yeah, I can't even get my own gimmick right. What would happen if you had to wait 5 years to give out the Oscars? So we used the 2012 movie season as the litmus test for how that would play out. Wait 5 years, and then what would the Oscars look like? It's a fun one. It's a weird concept. We also wrote about it on theringer.com today. Strange concept. One thing we won't be talking about today, college basketball, although Tate Frazier is here. Tate, is One Shiny Pod just an FBI investigation every time now?
We're going to talk all about the FBI, all the many coaches that are somehow implicated, but they didn't know. Everyone didn't know. No one knew anything.
Arizona's coach just mysteriously could not coach on Saturday because there was an FBI thing that he's batting around $100,000 figure for.
He's going to get vindicated, though. That's what we know. He's going to get vindicated.
He's going to get vindicated.
That's what he said. That's what he told us.
$100,000 for DeAndre Ayton.
It's a pretty good deal.
That guy's amazing.
It's a good deal. 1 year deal.
That's great. He should got $1 million. I think by the end of this, first of all, the Pepperdine job's open. Titus comes out here on Wednesday. Titus is going to be here. Your partner on One Shiny Podcast is going to be here for about 6 weeks. I think while you're here, we should drive over and try to convince Pepperdine and just give you guys a job. Do they have co-coaches in college?
Yeah, we can figure it out. Like a player coach maybe for Titus.
Could he come back? Does he have any eligibility?
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. College basketball is changing.
He could be a bad guy for himself.
Yes.
David Shoemaker's here. Could Tate and Titus? Do you think they could resurrect the Pepperdine Hoops program?
Absolutely. I was talking to Tate last week. I think that Tate, your forces combined, you two should be the new GM of the Charlotte Hornets.
Oh, with owner Steph Curry.
There you go.
Oh, this is great. Listen to One Shining Podcast. Subscribe. It's heating up. College hoops. You can win your March Madness pool. And then David Shoemaker is here, host of the Masked Man Show. Is it show or podcast?
The Masked Man Show.
Masked Man Show. I never understood how we decided to do shows or podcasts in the title.
It's so hard.
Mine's the Bill Simmons podcast, but it easily could be the Bill Simmons Show. I don't know what we were thinking. Hey, one last thing. I am hosting the Ringer NBA show on Monday, which is today. We had both of our hosts are flying back from Boston. So I'm the emergency host. So if you want to hear basketball, go over to the Ringer NBA show. Haral Bob Vulgaris, who's been on this podcast many times, he's on. Also talking to Jason Concepcion, Justin Vera, a whole bunch of people. So check that out. Ringer NBA show. Coming up, David Shoemaker, and then a little bit later, the 2013 Oscars. But first, our friends from Pearl Jam. All right, the breakout star of the Andre the Giant HBO documentary. America doesn't know yet. It's going to be watched by a ton of people, and people are going to be pointing at you in the streets, being like, that's the guy from the Andre documentary. Your whole life's going to change.
I grew a beard since we recorded just for this.
just to be more anonymous?
Yeah, it's all sunglasses and hats and beards from now on.
So last night, I want to talk WWE. There's a lot of fun stuff going on in WWE right now, and I'm not just saying that because we did a documentary with them. It's probably one of the best kind of stretches the company's had. The stock is at like $37.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was at one point a couple years ago down to maybe 13 or 14.
Sure.
And now has rebounded. They kind of figured out the WWE network. It took a few years. I remember in 2014, you and I wrote a whole piece.
Yeah.
They launched it, and we wrote a whole piece about like, whoa, this is cool. What a great idea. And yet they kind of botched it for the first couple years. Now they've figured that part out. They just signed Ronda Rousey, who we're going to get into it, but is one of the biggest stars they've ever had. I'm not sure if she's going to be a good wrestler. But just things are good. They have the TV rights coming up. One of the unexpected things, let's talk about that first. They're in kind of the catbird seat here with TV rights. Yeah. And people thought the MMA was going to be the big prize.
Yeah.
And, you know, what's Fox going to do? How high will it go? Who else is coming in? And it turned out it was the WWE, and it really sounds like they might go to Fox. What have you been hearing?
Well, I think Fox makes a lot of sense for a lot of different reasons. But I do want to be cautious in talking about this because I don't want to make the same mistake that WWE did the last time their TV rights were up, which is to overly equate them to a sport. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they do have the fact that Monday Night Raw and to a somewhat lesser extent Tuesday SmackDown Live are shows that the vast majority of, or a huge majority of fans watch live. So that in that way, it's very much like sports. Obviously, it's a fake sport in a lot of ways. But
oh, really? Don't tell my son. My son might be listening to this.
Yeah, no, but I do think that it doesn't have the same sort of drawing power. They were trying to get NBA money however many years ago it was when they re-upped with NBC Universal, and they got nothing close to it, right? I mean, it's just not the same thing.
Right.
I think that it makes a lot of sense for them to go with Fox. But you kind of see UFC and WWE circling each other in this weird way where like UFC is envious of the fact that WWE has a Facebook show and has like this over-the-top network that's really flourishing because they can do original programming. WWE's, interested in this sort of stability that UFC has, but I don't know that either of them is going to be better off if they just switch seats. So
Fox is in the catbird seat right now because they're basically deciding who wins this. And it seems like they're gravitating toward WWE. And if they do, UFC's in trouble. Because I don't know if there's another suitor. WME and IMG bought them, I think it was 3 years ago. And I think one of the big reasons they bought them was they thought the OTT service modeled after the WWE network, more pay-per-views, blowing it out. And then this big TV rights deal, hurricane of money was coming. And the reality is they might have been wrong, and I'm not sure that the money that they thought they were going to get is there. In general, like TV rights stuff has gone down for the most part, and I'm not sure who the other suitor is. But then you look at WWE on Fox, and it just kind of makes more sense. Like imagine watching Sunday Football on Fox, and they're running ads for Monday Night Raw the next day. What kind of overlap is that audience versus on the USA Network? It's all those shows with like lawyers in Miami, and it's always really bright out, and it's like a lawyer or detective, and they're trying to catch somebody. That's not really the WWE's sweet spot.
Yeah, so UFC sold to WME not even 2 years ago. It was June 16, and it's amazing how quickly the tide has turned in that span of time. I agree. I think that. I'm a huge wrestling fan and write about wrestling, so obviously I'm biased. But I do think that.
But we both like the MMA too.
Yeah, of course. But I do think that that WWE is this sort of asset that you can really that you can force appreciation on. Sort of like if you advertise it during football games, you're right, it's going to blow up. I mean, it's going to do really, really well. The USA Network has always valued WWE really highly, and with good reason, because they can say that they are the most watched cable network solely because of WWE, and they can boost ad rates across the board based on that fact.
I still don't know what the overlap is with the shows.
There's very little overlap. They've tried to overlap. I mean, they've tried programming for the slot after Raw to be very to be kind of appeal to wrestling fans in different ways. It's just really hard to do.
And here's the thing. Here's how you know the WWE is a good TV property. I think they were the ones that created the extend past the time slot move.
Yeah.
Where it goes from, originally it was like 8 to 10, but it was really like, or 9 to 11, but it was really like 11:03.
Yeah.
And now they build it in. Now it's like 8 to 11:07. And what happens is with the Nielsen ratings, you get, you boost that next hour you have.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't see that with everything. You certainly don't see it with UFC. And I think the biggest thing that's changed since WME bought MMA was there's so much instability with the best people.
Yeah.
WWE, it's like there is still instability and they have injuries and stuff, but the reality is John Cena, like he was in the main event last night in the Elimination Chamber. He's been there now for 2 full decades.
Sure.
Roman Reigns has been there for 5 or 6 solid years. 5 years? 6 years?
Yeah.
Seth Rollins is there. Braun Strowman, who they built up over the last 2 years. UFC builds up these guys and then they just get beat.
Yeah.
And that whole best versus the best thing, I'm not sure it's a good business strategy.
No, I mean, it's really tough. It was impossible to look at UFC even 2 years ago and say whether or not that was a good time to sell or a bad time to sell, because it is so dependent on the star power, right?
I think it was a great time to sell.
For the Fertitta brothers, it was a perfect time to sell. It's just so hard to predict this, and Chuck Mindenhall, who writes about UFC for us at The Ringer, and we laugh and we cry about this all the time, because every time he's turning in a preview, a UFC pay-per-view preview, one of the top fighters is like has washed out. Like he just got he got hurt and he can't fight, or he or she, and
it just happened with that heavyweight, that phenomenal puncher. Oh my God, he's going to bring the knockout artistry back.
He made it into the octagon, but then he got
then he lost.
Beat.
And then that's it. What happens to that guy?
That's actually the flip side of what you're talking about. You can build these guys if you to take advantage of their full time on top, which it might be 2 fights, it might be 5 fights, it might be 6 fights. You got to start singling them out earlier. That's what they did with Francis Ngannou, and I think he still has an incredible career ahead of him. But it's not wrestling. You can't write the script. The script would have been for him to beat Miocic, and he didn't win. So then what do you do?
I think the big mistake they've made, they were so desperate to distinguish themselves from boxing. And it worked to a lot of degrees, because they're always like, the best are going to fight the best. Mm-hmm. This is how it plays out. But boxing is still kicking at 2018.
Yeah.
I mean, the ESPN ratings have been as kind of shockingly good.
Yeah.
And I think ESPN's been really pleasantly surprised by how that's worked out for them. But part of the reason boxing works is somebody gets the championship and they'll fight some meatballs and some tomato cans, or some guys that kind of have a chance but not really, and they'll have that title for 3-4 years and keep building that equity. And then when they cash it in, like with something like the Canelo Triple G fight, it means something. And UFC is not wired to do that.
No.
But you could argue that it's actually a great way to do it, and it's not a bad thing for Stipe
Yeah.
to beat the shit out of 3 more guys
Totally
and keep
agree.
his streak going, you know?
Well, I mean, it's also the great wrestling tradition of squash matches. I mean, you just send Hulk Hogan out there to clothesline and leg drop somebody, and the crowd goes wild. We'll wait for him to have a significant match. You know? I think that's totally right. I think UFC could do more of that, but you get into what's one of the biggest problems that they've had since signing their Fox deal, and the thing that WWE is going to have to come, stare down if they end up making a deal with Fox, is that there's just too much. They're just taking up too much time on the air. They have too many obligations of time slots to fill.
Well, we hate the 3-hour Raw.
3-hour Raw, but I'm talking about UFC. Like they're running live. They run live shows on TV all the time. And
they've oversaturated.
When they hit their first peak after the Ultimate Fighter broke out and all that kind of stuff, it was partly because you could just turn on Spike TV at any point in time and see some fights, and these were fights you probably hadn't seen before because it was just blowing up.
It was the library of 12 to 13 years of fights.
Yeah, but now the library is largely exhausted, and they're still just throwing out these they can't keep people healthy to have enough good pay-per-views, and they're still rolling out these fight nights on Fox that sometimes it looks like there's guys in that cage that have no business being professional fighters,
Right.
and that's thrilling in a way, but it's also sort of jarring.
I think it's really hard for a casual MMA fan, which I'm a casual MMA fan.
Sure.
I will buy certain pay-per-views. I will talk to somebody like you or Minden Hall, or my buddy Jeff, who's my best friend, is a huge MMA fan who you met. I don't know which shows to watch.
No.
I don't know which ones are the right ones and the wrong ones. And I think this is something that Jeff was really worried about when WME bought them, because he thought he was reading between the lines of some of the stuff they were saying. And he was like, the worst thing they could do is have more shows and more pay-per-views and just devalue what we're watching. He didn't think it was going to work. And I would argue that they're in a worse place than they were 2 years ago. And if you look at Meltzer's newsletter, which I really like, has done a nice job of kind of breaking down just kind of how dangerous 2017 was for them. And if they didn't have the McGregor fight, which became the biggest thing that the UFC was ever involved with, if they didn't have that, it was a disaster of a year for them. Especially losing Rousey was a disaster. They kind of lost McGregor, even though he was in that boxing thing, but they kind of lost him as a signature guy. John Jones, he flames out. Lesnar tests positive. It seemed like he was going to come back. And, it's grim. I think they're in a dangerous spot right now.
Yeah, I mean it's been really tough. It's as the sport's professionalized, like you said, the more it's less. The further it gets away from being a circus sideshow. Or human cockfighting, as the great American John McCain once put it, the more difficult it is. It's a tough thing to put on as a real sport, and they've learned a lot from WWE. You can tell in just the way they present their promo packages. There's so much stuff. But the one ace in the hole that WWE has is, like you were saying, these guys are wrestling for a decade. I mean, and even though they get hurt, Roman Reigns has had a share of injuries. But if Roman Reigns broke his arm the day before WrestleMania, if they wanted to, they could still, give him a baseball bat and have him walk out there and smack somebody with it. I mean,
and they can always go out and get AJ Styles when they're one great wrestler short.
Yeah, no,
there's always that one signing they can do. UFC can't really be like, oh, let's go get this guy.
Well, that's the other big distinction between UFC and boxing, is that UFC's is not a monopoly, but they want to be. I mean, they're getting there, and they want to be more of one, right? So if you eat all the competition, and WWE did this too, to be fair. Once you eat all the competition, that's great for that financial quarter or whatever. But then there's no one pushing you, know. And on the more on the more meta level, you need competition.
WWE, they made some really big mistakes with that network. I almost wish they had consulted us. I think we could have helped them.
Yeah,
there was some common sense stuff they just missed. But now they've figured out that basically WWE, the network, is live wrestling, the library, and some documentaries, some those quickie instant documentaries they do, and that's really it. You don't need to have all these studio shows and all this stuff. Just have wrestling on there, and they've been smartly buying up all the rights to stuff. What was the stuff they just bought from the early '80s? They bought.
I didn't even see. What did they get? They got another tape.
Yeah, they added a whole bunch of. shit. It was like the early. It was like Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, and maybe it was
they just put it up on the network.
Yeah, they put it up on the network. Yeah.
So they roll out different territories. They're big chunks whenever, and old WWE historical stuff too. I get texts from friends. Such excited texts where they're just like they just put up more prime time. And they do a good job of sort of keeping all that stuff coming.
It's like a 40-year. This is what we wrote about 4 years ago. It's now like a 40-year history of wrestling because they own all the libraries of basically everybody that matters.
Yeah. I mean, they cut back a lot in the past couple of months to save money in making their original programming.
Which I don't think was a bad idea.
Yeah, but I agree for the most part.
Well, what do you disagree with? What do you wish they were doing?
I just think if you're cutting back, I don't know if they're. I think they're just trying to save money. Full stop. It would cost more money to do the history really, really well,
right?
Because the show's like I think they're still doing ride along, but when they having wrestlers talk to each other in a car or a restaurant, or Rosenberg's show, which I thought was really great, which was like PTI.
I like Rosenberg's show too,
but that those are cheap productions, right? And to really do you can release all of this Crockett territory stuff, but you should release it at the same time as you release a 90-minute documentary, and also do like 10 hours of director's commentary with Jim Ross or whoever just talking through matches, and you got to do all this stuff. You should layer it to do it really well. But they have figured out a lot of stuff, and they're doing it a lot better, using it as a platform for wrestling, for 205 Live and the Cruiserweight Classic and all that kind of stuff. And the UK tournament, the Mae Young Classic, all those things have been really, really good. I think
they cut back on the pay-per-views, which I thought was smart, because I thought they were.
We'll see how long that lasts.
But I think they've done a lot of the research, and they found that it didn't really matter whether they did 20 pay-per-views a year or 12. Like, people are still paying, as long as they had one a month that people could focus on.
I totally agree.
By the way, we both agree with that.
I've been saying forever they should have, even if they're going to have separate Raw and SmackDown rosters, they should do the pay-per-views together and let wrestlers earn their way onto it.
My biggest gripe with them right now is that it seems like the WWE title isn't the most important title, which I don't really understand. I don't know what the mechanics were behind the decision to say, I understand the Universal title thing, but why not just call the WWE title the Universal title?
Oh, you mean the SmackDown? Okay, so everyone listening to this is so confused. There are two shows, Raw and SmackDown. They have separate rosters, separate titles. They moved the WWE title. They put the WWE title on SmackDown to save SmackDown from looking like a second-tier show when they split the two brands.
But by doing that, they devalued the WWE title.
Yes, but probably less so than if they had just said, this is the, we'll just call this one the WWE, international title. Nobody would care about the SmackDown
Why
title.
not just make the SmackDown the Intercontinental title?
They should.
That was so stupid.
They should take the main title. They should honestly take the WWE title and put it above both shows. If they're going to have combined pay-per-views, just have the main event be separate from the brand split.
The great thing about the WWE title, and the thing that I think they really made the mistake on, was, there was a real lineage with that. I knew all the champions up through, starting with Bruno, and he loses to Pedro Morales, and I used to know every single title change through like 88.
Yeah.
And now it's like, so the Universal one is the one I'm supposed to care about now? It's weird.
Well, and even that, I thought you were going to make the point that belt doesn't matter, because I agree with that too, because they've made a really conscious decision over the past 6 months or so that, Brock Lesnar is your champion, but Brock Lesnar only shows up 4 times a year.
Right.
So over the past 6 months, they've kind of made the decision on the way to WrestleMania to pretend Brock Lesnar doesn't exist so that they can hype these intervening pay-per-views as being important, right? Because he's not always there. So,
but the numbers on Brock Lesnar is when he's involved in a pay-per-view, it definitely bumps it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But instead of just being,
I wish that wasn't the case, but there's really never been another situation in wrestling like this, right? Where we've had, I don't know, we've had somebody who wrestles 4 to 5 times a year, and that's it.
Meltzer's the guy to ask about this. Oh no, to wrestle that rarely. I mean,
I can't remember. Usually they don't reward somebody who barely shows up.
No, but I mean, that's true. That's just not Vince's standard operating procedure, I mean, but if you go back and look at like Hogan in his heyday, I mean, it's not like he was wrestling a bunch of matches on Saturday mornings or anything.
No, but he
was touring with the company. He was doing house shows.
He always had his little story arcs. He would have the 3 month.
Yeah, and
somebody turned on him, and he had to defend
Lesnar's
himself.
had a lot of story arcs even when he's not around. He's like nominally feuding with Goldberg or the Undertaker, even though he's not there every week. But yeah, I mean, at this point they're just sort of ignoring him. Now Roman Reigns is, I guess, going to take him face him at WrestleMania, and we'll be seeing a little bit more of Lesnar.
The polarizing Roman Reigns.
Yes.
Quick break to talk about MeUndies. I wear MeUndies every day, to the point that my family actually makes fun of me.
Oh.
I have no other underwear. Made from the softest material on earth. We're talking 3 times softer than Cotton Soft. MeUndies are the most comfortable and fun undies you and your significant other will ever own. Ladies, they come in tons of different colors and styles, including solids and lace, boys short, bikini and thong, something for everyone, every occasion. Fellas, the diamond seam pouch gives your stuff the support it needs without feeling too tight. I know Tate's a big fan of that. You like the diamond seam pouch. MeUndies is so sure that you'll love their underwear. They offer a 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you don't love your first pair, get a full refund. Right now, my listeners get 20% off their first pair and free shipping. It's a no-brainer. What are you waiting for? 20% off, free shipping, 100% satisfaction guarantee, and the best and softest underwear you ever own. All you have to do is go to MeUndies.com/BS. A limited time offer. Start wearing the best underwear of your life. It changed my life. It's time to let MeUndies change yours. MeUndies.com/BS. What wrestler came the closest to seeming like they were wrestling in their underwear?
Oh, well, I talk about this sometimes in the show. If you watch the Masked Man show, there's this really weird uncanny valley thing where a wrestler wearing his briefs is totally fine, but he needs to wear knee pads and or elbow pads. But sometimes you see a guy like Titus O'Neil is wrestling right now. If you're a big guy in
just
briefs,
wearing the
just the briefs and boots, you look like you're like you're doing a striptease. Like I still have my cowboy boots on and my underwear, but I'm not. But I'm in the process of taking it off. It's
here comes
unnerving.
Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey.
Let's do it.
You and I are not happy with how this has been booked so far.
Ooh. Last night at Elimination Chamber.
I know you're going to talk about this on Wednesday on your show, so I'm totally stepping on it. I don't really care.
No, let's do it.
This is important. This is the biggest signing they've made since who?
Since Lesnar came back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's there's nothing like that.
She's kind of staggeringly famous.
Yeah.
And she crosses these two worlds. People are super excited about it. She came out at the end of WrestleMania and just pointed.
The Royal Rumble, yeah.
I'm sorry, Royal Rumble. And pointed to the WrestleMania sign.
Yes.
And then pointed to people, and that was just weird, and I thought that was really awkward.
So it's very awkward because you realize as gifted as some wrestlers are at sort of improv, they need to have like the script is a very important part of the process. But what made it so awkward was that Ronda Rousey came out, and the 3 people in the ring, I think there were 3, was, the 2 champions, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, and Asuka, who had just won the Women's Royal Rumble.
My son's a big Asuka fan.
She's great.
She's great. And one of the best ever.
I mean, she's seriously like top 5, just overall talents in WWE.
Incredible.
But the 3 of them were in the ring. We know that they're all going to be at WrestleMania. The wild card is we don't know what Ronda Rousey is going to do. I'm talking about at the Royal Rumble. She came out, and at that point, it looked like she would probably have a one-on-one match.
Huge pop. Everybody had been waiting for her to be in the Rumble, but she wasn't.
But immediately, we all felt the uncertainty because WWE wasn't sure if she could wrestle or not. We signed her, but we don't know what we have. So, and we saw that again last night at the Elimination Chamber where she had her big contract signing, and
by the way, how many televised contract signings have gone well?
Zero.
As a longtime wrestling fan, I've become suspicious of them. I always feel like something bad might happen. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it looks like now that we're steering towards a tag team match, which will have her and maybe, I guess, Kurt Angle against Triple H and Stephanie, which is strange. One, because it shows the lack of confidence they have in her, and that's fine. She hasn't been wrestling for very long, and it's good for the company. But it does seem like a weird use of everyone else in that match. That's
not my biggest fear with this. She might actually be like genuinely one of the worst mic skills people they've ever had in a prominent role. I can't tell if she's just underplaying it now or if she's going to be really, really terrible and they're going to have to do the Brock Lesnar thing where she barely says anything and just looks menacing.
Well, I think that would be fine. I said this last...
But that's like, why not bring up Paul Heyman yesterday?
I don't know.
Why put her in the spot to
because
be
they don't
like,
want to get her booed. You know, there's a way to talk yourself out of everything in pro wrestling.
or get a new manager, get somebody we've never thought of.
No, it should have
Get
just been
Tate
Heyman.
Frazier.
Yeah, or just have her not talk. You know, if she just came out and she says, like, if you just grabbed the microphone and said, you know, sorry, Steph, I don't cut promos, I cut throats, and then just like signed her name on the dotted line, you know, that would have been enough.
I don't understand why they've, for the most part, thrown away the idea of the manager. This is a big thing of wrestling when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I still think it works. Like, when you see what Paul Heyman's been able to do over the last 10, 12 years, it still matters.
It does.
And, it really fills in the blanks if somebody doesn't have the personality. I mean, you could argue Roman Reigns has needed a manager the last 2 years.
Yeah. I think that part of, for better or worse, you know, Vince and WWE sort of made the calculation that they are sort of, they're going to invest in like high variant, or, you know, they're going to make some risky bets. And part of that was that we're going to expect all of our wrestlers to be Dwayne Johnson, right?
Not happening.
Sink or swim. We're going to put the microphone in your hand. We're going to put you in the main event. You know, if once you reach a certain level, the expectation is you have to be the total package. This is not a Lex Luger reference, but you know, and not everybody's that way. But you see it, like, there was a period a few months ago where just it seemed like every week they were just letting Finn Balor get in the ring and talk. And Finn Balor is, again, another one of the top 5 guys in the business, in my opinion, as far as just potential and skill and everything else. But he's never going to be, you know, Shawn Michaels on the microphone making a bunch of jokes, you know? And they just let him talk. Now, the flip side of that is they brought in guys like AJ Styles, and to an even greater extent, Samoa Joe, gave him microphones, and suddenly you're just like, oh my gosh, this guy's an actor. This guy's incredible. Like, and I didn't realize it before. But yeah, it's bad. They should have managers, but I think they just see that as like a crutch, you know?
I think that's the wrong way to see it. And I think actually you can make a case like there's some female comedian out there, or somebody who used to be a wrestler who got hurt, or just somebody that could help her and kind of like the Bella twins. One of them can't wrestle anymore, right? Because she got hurt.
They're both retired, I think, at least informally. But yeah, I mean, Nikki's neck was really messed up, and
so
Bree,
make Nikki
Bree's
her
married
manager.
and just had a kid, you know.
And Nikki handles the mic stuff. The feeling I got the first time at Royal Rumble, but then especially last night, was that she's going to be really bad on the mic. And just point to me the success stories in the WWE with people who were just bad with the microphone.
Well, she's not a bad talker. It's just, you know, every time you see an actor that would show up on Monday Night Raw to be the guest host, acting, you know, for TV and movies, and acting on a microphone in a wrestling ring are two totally different things.
It's presenting a shtick.
Yeah, I mean,
so she needs to figure out what her shtick is.
And you can tell that she's sort of playing to the camera because she's used to giving interviews to, you know, Ariel Helwani and people. She needs to. You have to be. When you're in the ring, you're playing to the person in the 100th row, right? And she's not found that volume yet.
She was playing to the person in the first row.
Not even that far. She was just having a conversation with Stephanie McMahon and Triple H,
which is not how to do it.
No,
I'm very skeptical that she's going to be able to flip the switch. I think we would have seen it yesterday, and so they're really going to have to work with her and train with her to kind of become, I don't want to say a parody of herself, but she's got to become an exaggerated version of herself.
It's a tough booking decision. I mean, and Brock Lesnar is a good comparison from his earliest days, but he didn't come in with this level of expectations. You know,
Brock Lesnar's like weirdly kind of compelling when he talks, right?
Oh yes, when he chooses to talk. But,
so she's
but
got
the
at
problem
least
is she
get
doesn't
that.
even have the ring. She doesn't. I mean, she's not an Olympic wrestler. You know, she doesn't have this. She's a judoka, and she's incredibly gifted, and she obviously has a lot of mat skills. She's been practicing MMA for a long time. But, you know, learning to be a wrestler is a different thing too. It would be different if this was bringing in the greatest wrestler in the history of New Japan, but they're not, like, you know, Shinsuke Nakamura. We bring in Nakamura. It's going to take him a while to get to where we want him to be on the mic. He doesn't speak English very well, you know. But we know he's got this. We know he can wrestle. We know that half of what we need is in place. Rousey right now is training. This is secondhand, but I mean, training in, you know, Florida with a black curtain wrapped around the ring, so no one can see what's going on.
She's like the Markel Fultz of wrestling. Yeah, well, so we know her closer will be the armbar, right? Mm-hmm. We know that she'll be able to do like a lot of fake punching and stuff like that.
Yeah, hip tosses, the throws. That
She's
sort
a
of
good
thing.
athlete. Like, she'll be able to do some flips and things like that. But the problem for her is the women's division has gotten so much better.
Yeah.
It went from like in the early days, it was just like hot women wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
That was like their gimmick. Then it became like attractive women who could also do some moves. And that was like the Bella Twins era.
Sure.
But Lita was like probably, I would say, the most gifted of that era? Like
Well, she was
actually-
earlier, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but I mean, like crossing into that.
Oh yeah, Lita, Trish, and then you'd have to go backwards and pick. I'm sure there were some. I mean, I know there were some very talented wrestlers in the '80s. I mean, like Fabulous Moolah. I mean, not when we were watching her, but of that era, there were a lot of people who could work.
But now we've gone into this era where even somebody like my son, who didn't 100% love the women's wrestling when he was 6, now is like he's into it now.
Yeah.
And the top 5, like he really enjoys watching, and it does feel like there's going to be a sea change with the women's part of the division. Might actually become as successful as the men. I actually see a roadmap for it now where I didn't 2 years ago.
I totally do. I was saying this last night, and I know I'm gonna come off sounding like an idiot, but there's not. There is so much talent in the women's division right now. I'm not sure who the sort of Dolph Ziggler of the women's who I don't know who. Like, I was trying to imagine who you let Ronda Rousey wrestle night in and night out for 6 months when she makes it onto the Raw roster to like when the Ultimate Warrior came up, they made him wrestle Rick Rude every night for like 3 months because Rick Rude he knew what he was doing, and if you messed up, he would hurt you. He would let you know it. But for the most part, it's like this. There's no way you can have a bad match against Rick Rude, right? There are other guys like that, Mr. Perfect. Like I said, Dolph Ziggler is one now who sort of got tarnished by the fact that he's a good hand. I don't know who that is in the women's division because there's a lot of immensely talented people. But I don't know who Bailey. I'm trying to think. No one's really been slotted in as that person that you work with. Those people are all in Florida. They're trainers. Can
I throw a radical idea at you?
Yeah, do it.
I thought about this during the Royal Rumble because the women's Royal Rumble was actually better than the men's Royal Rumble.
Oh yeah,
it was shocking.
It was so good.
And had more surprises. The big thing they messed up with the men's Royal Rumble was that they have so many wrestlers now. There are no surprises. Mm-hmm. There was no, Scott Hall limping into the ring as like the 29th guy, and like those guys. We need that. What makes the Royal Rumble fun is the blast from the past people, and they just weren't doing it with that.
They have too many moving parts in the men's Rumble.
What if they made SmackDown an all-women show?
They need to have an all-women's show. That's the other thing is that
isn't that the logical out? And then we don't have to deal with this stupid Universal title and all this stuff. And Raw's 3 hours, but it's jam-packed with all the male wrestlers. Yeah. And then SmackDown's 2 hours. Everybody's over there. Rousey's the face of it. And I just think it's a smarter idea.
I wish they would do it. I wish they would take some risks like that. I think that they have this sure thing, which is Raw and SmackDown, and when they go to sell the rights, that's what they're selling, right? But it's funny because if you're WWE and you like zoom out and take a look at it, like look at what other providers want, right? Like when you make a show with Facebook, now I don't know the background of how this was made, but it's the Mix Match Challenge, which is a basically out of storyline show.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still playing the same characters, but good guys are teaming with bad guys, and it's men and women who don't necessarily have relationships on Raw or SmackDown or tag team partners. It's a totally separate thing, which they find almost impossible to do. And that's what you're talking about, having a separate thing. Hulu, pays them who knows how much money to have a 90-minute episode of Raw that they have on Tuesdays, an exclusive, just a 90-minute cut of Raw. Yeah, it's a condensed cut of Raw. They've been doing it for years. And as all of us wrestling fans are just sitting here begging them to make Raw shorter than 3 hours.
Oh my God.
It's like, and Hulu's just like, oh no, we'll pay you for that.
If they loaded Raw with just all the dudes, you could go 3 hours if it's once a week.
No, but you can't. Yes, obviously you can go 3 hours.
I'm not sure I would want it, but it makes more sense to me than. I just think it's a bad telecast and it's a ratings grab, and I don't understand it.
It's like if you were making a movie. If you're making Fast and Furious 11 and you have a great 2 hour cut, and then the studio comes and they say for financial reasons we want this to be 3 hours long.
Right.
Your choice is either make the interstitial shots, the sunsets and the beer drinking, stretch that out to fill up an extra hour, or you actually go back to the writer's room and you say, let's think of something good to do with this hour, And WWE's taken the long swig of, Corona.
Jonathan Coachman returned.
Yeah.
and he's on the broadcast. And I got to say, he's really good.
Yeah.
Like they've had a real issue with that third spot especially on the pay-per-views. It's always been people that you and me and Rosenberg are sitting there going, wow, we would be better than this person. And now Coachman was really good. He had some funny throwaway lines. I thought he sold it, and it was the first telecast in years that I thought was good.
I agree, and I've never said I would be better than anybody on WWE in the WWE.
No, you
announce
tell me that
booth.
all the time.
No, it's not
You
true.
just said it at Starbucks the other day. You were like, this Andre thing, now do you think I could be the third guy? You know I'd be great.
Coachman's really good. I will say that here's the thing. Every new person in the WWE announce booth is just really great for like 2 months, and then we all turn on them. It's just the problem is that they never change. And I've been saying for years that what they need to do is let Michael Cole be the voice of pay-per-views and quit having set announce teams. Make it be like for the average basketball fan, when you turn on a college game or even when you turn on a pro game, you don't know who's going to be like doing color commentary and play-by-play.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, oh, look, another night with Marv Albert. This is a nice treat. I wasn't expecting this, you know? And like, just let it be a rotating cast. Try out some different things. Like, it's so...
So you, me, and Rosenberg?
Yeah,
is that what you're
exactly.
pitching?
Yeah, you can put some crazy people in there. You can put some wrestlers there for the whole show, you know, like they used to do. But yeah, Coach is really good. Coach brings that air of legitimacy, and frankly, and they let him mess up too, and that's the great thing. He's said things that, like, you know, Michael Cole said 5 minutes before, and he didn't realize it, you know. But there's such a humanity to that it's so much better than when it feels like every line's being fed to these guys.
He actually feels a little overqualified. I mean, he was on ESPN for
Sure.
a while, like with
well,
real gigs.
when you talk about managers and when you talk about announcers, the toughest thing is the legends of the sport. And both of those roles are wrestlers who got hurt, who are looking for other jobs. And that's because they just, you know, it's magical that Bobby Heenan, or not Bobby Heenan. I mean, there's so many of these managers and announcers. JR, you know, he was sweeping floors before he got his first job as a referee, and then they let him call matches. You know, it's the hardest thing is not only I mean, above anything else, they got to find people who are willing to be lifers. You know, and even Coachman's, you know, he left and he came back, but they're not going to go out and hire an actor to be a manager because Vince is, and the wrestling industry in general is rightfully worried that they'll leave as soon as they get an opportunity.
I think Rosenberg could be a manager.
He would love it.
Would he be a heel? He'd be a heel.
Yes.
immediately,
Oh,
right?
yes. People hate Rosenberg.
The best thing about a manager, and the part that I think gets underserved, is we just don't see it anymore because everybody at WWE wants to be liked. I love when they go into the city and they insult the sports teams of the city.
Oh, yeah.
Is the single most reliable way to enrage 15,000 people.
Yeah.
Like you go into Minnesota and you're like, hey, Minnesota, sorry you choked against the Eagles.
Yeah.
That was your Super Bowl, but you guys didn't get it because you're losers.
Yes.
And the fans just go crazy. Like, it's like the most insulting thing you can do to a fan base.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
that's the manager is great at that stuff.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, because it's managers can just walk out in opposing teams' jerseys in a way that, you know, wrestlers.
Who
have
was
to
the
keep
one
a
who
little bit
invented
of
that?
dignity. Like, your local sports team sucks?
Who was the one who would walk out in the jersey that would enrage the fans? Because I remember, like, somebody did that in Boston where they wore, like, a Yankee jersey, and it was like they almost...
I feel like Cena did that a couple times
Well, I think it
because
might
of
have been
it.
Cena.
But yeah, I mean, there've been lots of people that have played with that.
It seems like it's a this century thing. I don't feel like that was happening.
I need to find out.
Edge and Christian used to do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, but certainly the first person to be like your football team, your baseball team sucks has got to be ages ago. I should try to figure out who that was.
I'm a bad person to do this ad because I have a scraggly beard right now. Mm-hmm. And you do as well.
Yeah.
When did you start shaving?
Like in life?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't even remember. When was that? Like 8th grade or something like that? 9th grade?
Yeah, I was like college. It was embarrassing.
Oh no, I didn't have anything to shave, but I you know, I was getting. I
should
wanted to be cool.
I should have pretend shaved more because it would have made me feel better. My neck. Does your neck get really bad shaving zits and stuff?
Oh yeah.
I started using the Gillette Fusion Ultra Sensitive Skin Shaving Gel, and it saved my neck. I just used it the other day. Actually, see my neck, my nice clean shaved neck. Recently, I started using the Gillette Fusion Pro Shield razor. I ordered and got 4 refillable razors and free shipping. Then every 4th order free because I subscribed. And now you can get Gillette Performance delivered to your door. Did you know that? You get it right delivered to your door. Oh, yeah. No more getting mad at yourself because you just got back from the grocery store and realized you forgot to buy blades. All you have to do is subscribe today. You pick your favorite razor, and you get every fourth order free. Visit Gillette online at GilletteOnDemand.com. All right, before you go, Andre the Giant, our documentary,
Yes.
April 10th. You can hear Shoemaker's voice in the 2-minute trailer, which apparently got a huge pop at Royal Rumble, and every time they run it a pay-per-view, the fans go nuts for it. In the beginning, you see somebody, and then you hear your voice in the background. Mm-hmm. And it's really good, and I'm excited, and we really needed you. Jason
glad-
Hare, the director, called you the glue guy of this documentary.
Yeah. I think I've said before on this podcast or in another one that the first thing that Jason ever sent me was just like a 7-second clip of me starting a sentence and Jerry the King Lawler finishing it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need to see anything else. I'm very happy with this production. It's really good. And I'm glad there's a couple of people that have been able to see it. So I know that I'm not crazy, or biased, I mean, I saw several cuts, and that last one I saw it was fantastic, man.
Because when I was at ESPN and we were doing 30 for 30s, and we did some great ones, when we were always a little bit prisoners to the time slot.
Yeah.
So if it was 90 minutes, the doc had to be an hour 17 with 13 minutes of commercials.
Oh, yeah,
like that.
okay.
It was really cool to do a documentary that, we wanted to get it under an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But it was the exact time it should have been.
Sure.
There wasn't like a wasted second to really like carve out every single second.
I mean,
of it.
it's his whole life, so there's a lot of ground to cover. But Jason found a way to do it just really, really well.
It's good, and it tells the story of Andre and this guy who knew he was going to die, basically from the moment he was like 20. But then also the B story about kind of the history of wrestling as it transformed from
the
territorial to
yeah.
the big one. And I think I'm really proud of it. You're great in it. Thank you for your contributions.
It's amazing. And wrestling fans, like even diehard wrestling fans, I know a lot of wrestling fans will be excited that HBO is making a wrestling documentary that this documentary exists.
Yeah.
They love Andre, but they'll say I've seen Andre docs before, or I've read the book about him. I have a chapter in my book about him, and this is a thing that a writer should probably always say more quietly. There's a lot of stuff where I got wrong in my book.
Yeah.
That Jason's the first one to do the legwork to figure out some basic facts about Andre the Giant, and it's
Right.
and he's he went to his home, his childhood home.
France.
It's unbelievable.
There was so much mythology with Andre, we never knew what to believe and not believe. So we saw some of that stuff. Anyway, that's coming out April 10th. I think we're going to do a screening in New Orleans before WrestleMania. I'm hoping that weekend. Yeah,
News to me. This is great.
Invite some wrestlers. So stay tuned for that. You're going to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
New Orleans. What match are you most excited for?
Well, there's a lot in the air right now.
A lot
in the air. I'm excited if they go through with just a straight up Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar match. I'm excited to see how the crowd reacts. I'm excited to see what those guys do to move us to the next era of WWE. And I'm excited also for that sort of this to be over. This match has been looming for 3 years. So let's do it.
And we can read you.
I'll be writing a couple times before WrestleMania.
Okay. And the Masked Man Show.
The Masked Man Show. Press Box.
Podcast. All right, subscribe. Oh, yeah, Press Box. You and Curtis.
I know.
America's favorite longtime buddy friendship.
After Andy and Chris.
Yeah, it's one of the top two. Yeah, Press Box on Channel 33.
Yeah.
Breaking down media stuff. Yeah, and you're our art director.
I know.
You're one of the hardest working men at the Ringer.
Doing wrestling and media criticism, all this is just leading to just a showdown between me and Ramona Shelburne, I think, at this point.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, man.
All right, I wish the black tux had been around when I went to 25 weddings in my 20s. The good news, it's around for you. High-quality rental suits, tuxedos delivered to your doorstep. TheBlackTux.com makes weddings or special events easier than it's ever been. God, I wish this had been around when I went to 20 weddings in my 20s. The Black Tux offers free home try-on so you can see the fit and feel the quality of your suit months before your event. It's completely done online. No trips to the tux shop required. No tailors with cigarette breaths breathing all over you. The Black Tux lets you create your look or choose from tons of stylist-selected outfits. Suits usually retail for $1,200. At the Black Tux, they start at just $95. After ordering, your suit will arrive 14 days before your event. If anything is less than perfect, the Black Tux will send you a free replacement right away after you're done. Drop your rental back in the mall Mail, mall, mail, in the mail. Shipping is free both ways. Get started right now. Visit thebblacktux.com/BS to get $20 off your purchase. Again, thebblacktux.com/BS. The Black Tux. Premium rentals, suits, and tuxedos delivered. Right now, here's my conversation. 2013 Oscars redone with Sean Fennessey, Wesley Morris, and a little guest cameo from Cam Collins. All right, Sean Fennessey, editor-in-chief of The Ringer, is here.
Hello.
Wesley Morris from the New York Times, former Grantland colleague, Pulitzer Prize winner, general good guy.
Thank you, Bill.
Beloved teammate. He's here as well. We're going to do something that I've talked about doing for years, and we've never actually done it in any form, and now we're going to do it. In baseball, there's a 5-year waiting period before anyone can get in the Hall of Fame. And I think for basketball, they might have that as well. In general, the concept of a 5-year waiting period, which seems dumb sometimes when Michael Jordan retires and it's clear he should just be in the Hall of Fame a year later. But the waiting period is good, and it gives you a little time and distance and space, and you think to yourself, something you thought in the moment, maybe it calms down a little bit or whatever. I wish we did this with movies and music and television, but there's a lot of reasons that we don't. From a marketing standpoint, it doesn't make sense. I think it would be weird to have the Oscars 5 years after the movies came out. I get all of those reasons. Yeah. It's still a cool exercise.
Yeah.
So I thought we would try it for the 2013 Oscars, which covered the movies in 2012.
Yes.
And what happens with this stuff, and what we talked about when we did the Get Out rewatchables, is sometimes the awards get it wrong. And you look back 10 years or 5 years or 20 years and you say to yourself, that's ridiculous. How did we let that happen? What a travesty that is. There are a lot of Oscar travesties. We're going to try to fix them in 2013 and see if they even exist. What is your biggest Oscar travesty, Wesley?
Of all time?
Yeah, your number one that just drives you nuts.
I'm going to limit it to things with situations in which Oscars were given to movies and or people.
Okay.
The obvious ones are pretty obvious. The thing that first leapt to mind when you said that was Kim Basinger winning supporting actress.
Wow. LA Confidential? Oh God.
I don't know. That's the first thing that leapt to mind.
More than like Dances with Wolves over Goodfellas or...
That's just the first thing that leapt to mind. Of course, I'm not going to argue. Okay. I have no argument against... Of course. Okay. Duh.
The first one is Kim Basinger.
That's the first thing that comes to mind.
Mine is Goodfellas.
That's a big one.
And I like Dances with Wolves. It's 14 hours long. And I'd never watch it again. But I liked it, and it was affecting, and, it was like kind of the last era of
You would
Westerns.
watch it now, and you would be like, this... Talk about... There are two kinds of movies they don't make anymore or wouldn't make now.
Yeah.
Dances with Wolves. It would be interesting to see the pitch on that in 2018.
It would not happen.
Yeah,
it's
just wouldn't happen.
Plausible.
Ben Affleck pitching Dances with Wolves in 2018. Good luck.
I'm not seeing it. We once upon a time when we worked together, we all worked on a Oscar travesties package.
Yeah, we did. Didn't we do a bracket?
We did
it was a bracket.
The winner of that bracket was Stanley Kubrick never winning Best Director. Which is that's an interesting. Whenever you're talking about the Oscars, it's like keep that in mind. Keep in mind that the person that many people think is the most visionary filmmaker of the 20th century never won.
Right.
2013,
to refresh people's memories, here are the signature movies. Argo. Les Miserables.
Wow, this is great.
Les Miserables.
Go for it. Keep going.
Les
for it.
Miserables. Life of Pi. Lincoln. A movie that has not aged well. Silver Linings Playbook. Zero Dark 30. Django. Beasts of the Southern Wild. Amour. The Master, which somehow did not get nominated for Best Picture, even though there were 9 nominations.
Nominated for... Wait, it got 9
there were 9 nominated Best Pictures nominees. I can't speak.
Nominated
and The Master is one of them.
Only in the acting categories.
And then Flight was that year. And there are a couple movies that got overlooked, including End of Watch, which we're going to talk about. This is 40 came out that year. Ted, The Avengers, The Dark Knight Rises, and Taken 2.
I think
Among others.
I think Skyfall too is an interesting one to
Skyfall?
think about
Forgot about
in this
Skyfall.
context.
Yeah.
Which is like the only good Bond movie. That's my quiet theory.
Interesting.
I like Casino Royale, but I think I just have a gambling problem.
It's one of the worst poker scenes of all time.
So, Best Picture. Here are the nominees: Argo, Amour, Beasts of the Southern Wild, Django Unchained, Les Miserables, Les Mis, Life of Pi, Lincoln, Silver Linings Playbook, Zero Dark 30. The winner was Argo.
Yes.
Which, as we're going to discuss in a second, is interesting because not only was Ben Affleck snubbed from Best Director, so was Quentin Tarantino and so was Catherine Bigelow.
Yes.
Wesley was ready for Grantland at the time and was very upset about all of this. The director snubs. Although you could make the case they just had great nominees that year, and when you have 8, weird shit happens.
That is certainly true. I mean, I just sort of felt like, I mean, it wasn't just that. I mean, why don't you read who was nominated for Best Director, Bill?
Well, let's hit picture first, and
All
then
right.
we'll do director.
All right.
So, first question.
Yes.
5 years later, should Argo have won Best Picture? We'll go around the room. Sean Fennessey, you were first.
Yes. Not because I think it is this superlative film, but I think it is the best story that the Oscars was going to tell that year. This is a strange collection of movies, and I don't think that any win would have been satisfying because all of these movies are complicated in their own way.
It's a bunch of number 2 starters.
Exactly.
There's no ace.
Exactly. I like Django
It's a baseball
a lot.
analogy, Wesley.
That was not my face. I understood what you meant.
Okay, I
I
just
just
wanted-
disagree. Go on.
Okay, keep going.
I think like Zero Dark 30, for example, is a movie that is aging worse by the moment.
Yes.
And the way that movie, not as a film, but the story that it's telling and the context it's providing. It's
Okay.
become much more complicated the more we learn about what we did in the Middle East and how we pursued information and what was provided to that movie by the FBI and the CIA versus what may have actually been true. So a win there would have certified it in a way that would have been complicated.
Yes.
I think Amour and Beast of the Southern Wild were never going to win.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Les Mis is not good.
Oh, but go on. You're right.
Life of Pi and Lincoln are achievement movies. I don't think that they're beloved movies. Silver Linings Playbook, I'm not a fan of. If people want to adjudicate it, we can do that together.
Let's do that in a second.
I think Argo was a crowd pleaser. It was a successful box office story. It was an actor transitioning to director and kind of reaching his summit as a filmmaker. Not insofar as the achievement, but like the story that was being told about his career.
Right.
And it was that typical Oscars thing where the Oscars loves a movie about Hollywood
itself. Yeah.
And
Wesley?
Yeah. I mean, what else? I mean, well, this is a thing that when we talk about the Oscars in certain sea changes, and you put anything up against, you put any kind of movie up against a movie about Hollywood, and the movie about Hollywood will win. It doesn't matter what that movie is about. I mean, Crash is a movie about Hollywood. Argo is a movie about Hollywood. The Artist is a movie about Hollywood. Anytime you've got a Hollywood-oriented movie nominated for Best Picture, it's just going to win.
But did you think it should have won?
Who
would you?
But
who
what do
was
you
your
mean?
dream?
What does should mean?
What was
under
the
these
best movie that
circumstances?
year? 5 years later.
Of these 9 movies?
Yeah.
I think Django Unchained and Lincoln are the 2 best of. Oh wait, sorry, Amour, Django Unchained, and Lincoln are the 3 best of those movies. I don't think. I mean, and then what you're saying, I sort of scoffed a little bit at your number 2 metaphor.
I didn't say they were bad number
No,
2
no, no.
starters. I
But-
think they were
but-
good. They
but
were
you're-
like
yeah.
16
but you're-
and 11 with
you're-
like a 3.02 ERA.
You're actually right. Each one of none of these movies is the director's best movie. They are in a second tier of that director's movies. I mean, Argo, I don't think is as good as The Town.
Agree.
Amour is certainly not Michael Haneke's best movie, but it is very good. Beasts of the Southern Wild, the less said, the better, but it's Ben Zeitlin's first movie.
And only movie to date.
And only movie to date. Django Unchained, there's a case to be made that it's one of his best movies, and I really like it a lot. I would not put it in the second tier of that director's movies. Les Mis, whatever.
Inexplicable.
I will say for an hour, that movie is. I was hooked, and I was convinced by all of those people doing what they do, except obviously for Russell Crowe.
Even Russell Crowe.
Except for Russell Crowe. But even that to me is a fascinating movie star challenge, right?
Yep.
Where you have Russell Crowe pitted against Hugh Jackman, who I would say in some scenario might have been a market correction oriented sort of thing. We can think about that. It's not quite completely satisfying, but we can think about it. I don't know. Les Mis is fascinating. And then you also realize it's just a bad musical once you get to the second half. It's great for production. Life of Pi, not Ang Lee's best movie. Not like that's a second tier Ang Lee.
That's like a third starter.
Yeah.
That's like a 14 and 13. Maybe got hurt halfway through the
But
year.
it is a directing achievement, though. It really
fine.
is. It is a very well directed
How
movie.
many Life of Pi conversations have you had in the last 4 years?
0. I can see that.
That movie is a perfect reason to do a podcast like this. It's a movie that is just lost in our memory completely.
Yeah.
And somehow that's
Yeah.
the movie that Ang Lee, who is like kind of a master, that he won his best director for this movie. And
FYI, that's going to happen to Shape of Water.
We're
never going to talk about that
good
movie
context.
3 months from now.
It's good context. It is not Del
Like,
Toro's
what was that
best
for
movie.
sex movie that was weird and it won the Oscar? Like, what the hell happened?
I think that it's really weird that The Master's not on this list. I think there's a case for The
Yeah,
Master
incredible.
as his best movie.
This
and
is where we go.
It's
This
not
is-
nominated,
yeah.
and you know.
Well, first of all, it's incredible that The Master is not on this list.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Amore and,
second-
Beasts of the Southern Wild are here, and The Master is not.
You can
How
make
did
a
that happen?
case The Master was the best movie of all these movies.
If the Master was on this list, if the Master was on this list, I would still feel the way I feel about Amore and Django Unchained and Lincoln. Wait, let's go through this list. Let's finish going through the list. Lincoln, top mid-tier Spielberg. I really like this movie a lot.
I do too.
I
know you don't like it, Bill.
Even the political shots that people
Dislike
took
it,
against
it's
it,
fine.
I have no problem arguing
Not a
against.
fun movie.
Oh, all of that Congress stuff is really fun.
I dig it.
And the second half of the movie where James Spader and who's his sidekick? Is it the little guy whose name is now?
You guys are too artsy fartsy right now.
We're talking about a Spielberg movie starring Daniel
Do you
Day-Lewis
guys
and
also
Sally
like the
Field.
John Adams miniseries?
I think John Adams is
That was pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. So there's two types of
This
people.
is so much better
If you
than
like Lincoln and John Adams, are not
you
really a
can't,
cup of tea.
Bill. I'm not going to
Like
let
my
you
buddy
do this.
Jacko loved Lincoln.
I'm not going to let you do this.
It's fine. It
Lincoln is the most entertaining movie you're ever going to see
The
about.
Master is better than
government.
Lincoln.
Yes, but
Agreed.
that's not what we're talking
It's more
about.
interesting. It's more original.
I agree.
Yes.
It takes more chances.
Bill, of course, yes, you're totally
Silver
right.
Linings Playbook, I think at least 40% of that movie was that we were so enchanted by Jennifer Lawrence and her potential as a star.
Define we.
I would say most of America.
Okay.
Most non-cynical Americans.
Okay.
And I think now, after 5 years of watching the career choices and some of the things she's done, not as enchanting.
Yeah, we can get to maybe her in that category, right? Because that tells.
I'm going to keep doing 4 sports metaphors. Little like Vince Carter, early Raptors, where you're like, wow, this is amazing. But now you look back and you're like, you made round 2 once.
Right.
Congratulations.
Here's the thing.
She won a dunk contest in Silver Linings, though. That was
She
the thing.
did.
It's a dunk contest.
Right.
That's what that movie is.
Over him?
Well,
Just in general, the performance is
She won
like
the
it doesn't really
trophy.
mean anything.
Right,
It's just
yeah,
like look at my charisma.
Well, but
Right.
yeah, but we can go back to that in a second. But I also think Silver Linings Playbook of these 9 movies was the one that arm wrestled America into acceptance. And I think that it charmed everybody who saw it. I didn't want to like it. I still don't think I do, but while I was watching it, I was totally taken with
Well,
it.
it had one big thing, too, is that it was Bradley Cooper. I think this was before Limitless, right?
No, it's after.
It's after
It's after
Limitless.
Limitless.
A little bit of a coronation for him as like a real movie star.
Yeah.
And
as
it
an
was like
actor,
he had shown, he gave us a couple peaks, and then this one, he's really getting it.
Yep. And then Zero Dark 30 is I think her best.
It had a moment. It was part of a cultural moment that people were ready for a movie like Zero Dark 30.
Yeah.
I think
When it was released, it was
That helped.
That year, it was my second favorite movie of that year. I was pretty impressed. I was really impressed with how she told that story.
it's her best. It's her best directing.
Yeah. But
movie.
now that's the story itself is like I said earlier, just like way more complicated.
It's very well crafted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is of these 9 movies. I mean, they're mostly really well directed.
Yeah, but you can have other movies in there. Like that, for me, The Master is in play.
Oh,
on
well,
this
The
list.
Master. All right. So if we're leaving the confines of the Best Picture
Just
nominees,
what was the Best Picture 5 years later?
The Master. The Master is unquestionably. I mean, and the things that it's about are unquestionably timeless in some ways in terms of this quest of selfhood and this search for someone to complete that quest for you. People who fraudulence is like spiritual fraudulence, economic fraudulence, emotional fraudulence. It is such a great movie about America in a lot of ways, without declaring any grand statement about America at all. And the acting is great.
I think Amore was really good.
Amore is
It is
great.
really good.
I don't think it should have won Best Picture because it's just too kind of under the radar.
Yeah, it was small.
You have
It's
to have
really
some
quiet.
sort of moment, and I think it won Best Foreign Film.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a foreign film's never won Best Picture, right? Is that right?
A foreign film winner or
Yeah.
a foreign film.
No, a foreign film nominated
foreign
for Best
language-
Picture has never won.
If you
The artist does the artist count?
Oh, the artist, yeah.
Does the artist count?
I guess it does,
I
yeah.
mean, it's
Produced
set,
by an
it's set
American
in Los
company, but-
Angeles,
yeah.
but
if you spent 20 days in a row and you had amnesia and you missed this whole year and you just watched these 20 movies in a row and just start to finish, which is the best one, the best crafted, the most moving, all that stuff, I think Amore wins. I don't think I think it's weird. It would have been weird if it won Best Picture. I think how it ended up was good. It got nominated. It won Best Foreign Film.
Yeah, it made like a great international filmmaker a little bit more of a name brand in America. A few more people saw The White Ribbon and
It's a heart-wrenching
Cachet
movie.
and all of his, The Piano Teacher and all the great Michael Haneke movies. They saw them because Amore got nominated for Best Picture, which is a great thing.
So I would have that. I think The Master should have won, and I think Django is actually kind of like 15% underrated now. And now maybe because of the moment Tarantino's having, it's going to get lost culturally, and I think he's in a lot of trouble. But
We're in a reevaluation period. with him,
yeah,
obviously.
just in general. But
Deep
The Master is so
sacrifice.
fucking weird. I watched it with my wife again like a month ago, and she'd never seen it. And she didn't like it and was having a real visceral reaction to it, but also couldn't stop watching it.
yeah.
And Phoenix's performance the second time around, or maybe it was the third time I said, I don't know, but he's so good in that. I know we're going to talk Best Actor. It's just there's just no movie like that movie.
I had a great viewing experience for that movie. I saw it opening night, Thursday night at midnight at the ArcLight in Hollywood. I saw it with Chris Ryan and Alex Papademos, your former podcast partner, our former colleague. And it was after a long dinner at Musso and Frank, and it was mobbed. The dome was mobbed for The Master. And people came out of the movie theater at 2:45 in the morning, and they were humming. And 2:45 in the morning is not a time in LA. The city shuts down at 2. So to see a fully packed dome lobby and seeing people like really excited about a movie that is a strange film is really burnished into my brain.
I don't think any of these movies have greatness except for that movie. All these
You mean
movies are
do you
really
don't
good.
think they have any greatness?
No, just like real unique greatness.
I don't know.
That's the one that stands out for me.
I don't know. Like Django Unchained, that is a great
It has. I would say that's
directing
great.
performance, and it really is going for something in terms of what it's arguing.
That's great sections.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think there's no part of that movie that doesn't interest me like endlessly.
So it sounds like that's your
even
vote,
the problems of the nine of those. No. That's not true. I think The Master is like it is a perfect movie. There is nothing wrong with that movie. Every single thing about it works. And, the thing that, of course, kept it from being nominated for it's not nominated for original screenplay or director, best picture, whatever.
I think the voters saw him jerking off in the ocean like 10 minutes in, and they were like, "I'm
No,
out.
Bill,
Turn
that's
this
not,
off."
That's not what hurt it. It's
This
the
82-year-old voter.
It's the Scientology thing.
Maybe.
It's the belief that it's the thing that got set in motion that this is a movie about Scientology. And no matter. I mean, clearly,
I'm not even positive that's true.
but it doesn't matter. That's the narrative.
No, I'm saying but that narrative that it's
Right.
about Scientology, and it's like I'm sure there's pieces of it, and maybe it was inspired by that, but I don't think that's what the movie was about.
One other element of it I think that has made it age better is it's Philip Seymour Hoffman's last great performance. I mean, he passed away only a few years after this was made, and so it's strange now that it's not acknowledged in that way. You know, that it has not become a part of Oscar history in that way, because he's just captivating. It is everything.
I would say
that
that's
is
a
perfect
top
for
3
him.
Hoffman performance,
How
right?
Yeah,
Incredible.
How Christoph Waltz won an Oscar, and in a category that included
for your
a
favorite movie, Django.
I mean, are we going to talk about this later? Should
Yeah,
we
we're
just?
hitting
Yeah.
Okay.
Last thing, we're gonna
Wait,
move
Bill,
to.
what is your pick? What do you think should have won?
I think The Master.
The Master. But what about of the nominees?
I would have gone with Django, and I don't feel great about it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Argo, I think, is really good, but it's hard for me to believe that won the Oscar. It's a really good movie, gripping, good action movie. I feel like I've seen 15 different versions of that movie over the last 20 years.
It got criticized as like a high-toned TV movie when it came out.
It's really good. Affleck's hair is very strange. It's hard to get by in the rewatches.
He looks good.
You
in
like
that
it?
movie.
You love
yeah.
you
How do
love
you guys
weird
feel
hair
about the
beard combos.
gratuitous shirtless scene?
It's listen.
Listen, man.
They
Guy's
all
gotta do what
they
he's
all
gotta
do it. They all do it, and you're just talking to the wrong person on that one.
Okay.
I'm not going to complain.
It's a choice.
It's a good movie. I'm not positive I would watch it if it was on tonight and I had no other options.
It's low-key a big win for magazine adaptations. You know, it was like a magazine
Yeah.
story that was made into a movie, which
Yeah.
that's good for all of us. That's good
Best
for the biz.
director was Ang Lee, won for Life of Pi. Michael Haneke, Amor.
Hanukkah, yeah.
Haneke, sorry. I'm gonna mangle
It's
more names
Hanukkah
than that.
if you're doing it really right.
That's what I was
The
trying to
Beast of the Southern Wild guy. I'm not saying his name.
Zeitlin.
Spielberg for Lincoln, and then David O. Russell for Silver Linings Playbook. Tarantino snubbed. Affleck snubbed.
No Bigelow.
Bigelow snubbed.
No Wes Anderson. Oh, wait. Is that year? That's a
Yes,
different.
no Wes Anderson
Wes
from Moonrise
Anderson.
Kingdom, no
Yeah.
Paul Thomas Anderson for The Master.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, Paul Thomas Anderson.
there's a
snubbed.
whole other
Wow.
5 director category. There's a 5 other best director nominees. They
It's
could
kind
have
of
made
a
it.
loaded movie
Yeah.
because the best actor category is really good.
With or Tom Hooper for Les Mis?
Yeah, that was a thing that was a little bit of a tiny thing. The next day, there was no Tom Hooper.
I'll tell you what hasn't aged well is Ang Lee's Oscar for Life of Pi. That is in the fridge, and I need to throw it out.
Let's
What's that smell in the fridge? Oh, it's Ang Lee's Oscar.
okay.
But throw that thing away.
Let's like pay a little homage to Ang Lee.
Yeah, I mean, we
Fine,
have to.
great.
There's no choice. We have
I think
to.
he's very good at what he does.
Sense
He
and
should have won the
Sensibility,
Oscar that year.
The Ice Storm.
Great. I think you know where I stand in the
Crouching
Ice Storm.
Tiger.
Hulk.
I want to do an Ice Storm rewatchables.
Hulk.
Would you be in the
Hulk-
Ice Storm
Hulk?
rewatchables,
Yeah,
Wesley?
you ride for Hulk?
What?
The Ice Storm
Oh,
rewatchables?
for sure.
That movie's fucked up. It's so good.
That's kind of your era. That East Coast.
Darien, Connecticut,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I was like in high school, right near there. Yeah, super
Were you
weird.
Tobey Maguire in that movie?
Please don't
no.
say you were Kevin Kline.
No, but that inspired the key party that we have every week at my house on Fridays. The Ang Lee Oscar's awful.
It's a makeup Oscar for
God-
Brokeback. It's
Okay.
all. That's what
That's
it is.
fine.
They
If that's what we're saying, that's fine. 'cause you
Brokeback
should've won
didn't
for
win.
Brokeback.
He didn't win. He should have won that.
Wait,
He
should've
who
won
won
for
that
Brokeback.
year? I think Ang Lee did
Paul
win
Haggis,
that year,
wasn't it?
No, Haggis didn't win.
Did he win? Maybe he
Ang
did
Lee
win.
won for Brokeback Mountain. This is not a makeup Oscar.
you're right. He
this
did.
is this
Yeah, do we still
Oscar.
have to make up with him if he won the Oscar?
No,
Oh, then that's a really weird.
no.
win.
The Ang Lee. Listen, do you remember what you said to me like the day after this happened?
No.
I believe you were the person that got me on this American director's kick.
Oh yeah, that we've been talking about. Now. Right.
And that he, I don't know if, I mean, I can't remember who won the year before. I think Cuarón won the year before this.
Right. White American men don't win
Or
this
the
award
year-
anymore.
Cuarón
Damien
wins the year
Chazelle won,
after.
But otherwise, since then,
And it was just really, I mean, this is a guy who, I mean, you watch that movie and it is such a director's movie. I don't know what people saw when they saw The Master that doesn't make that a director's movie or Zero Dark
I would
30.
say that's the most directory movie, The Master.
Yeah, I mean, or Zero Dark 30. I mean, I don't know what the director's branch is going for or looking for when they cast their ballots.
Beast of the Southern
and I don't know.
Wild
I was
is
going to say I don't
embarrassing.
know what they see in Beast of the
That's
Southern
embarrassing.
Wild.
Lincoln
but-
should have gotten snubbed too. Fuck Spielberg.
I think Beast of the Southern
Wait
Wild.
a minute! Oh my God! Why are
Just
you
trying to get it. I mean, Sean was. I needed to increase his
Sean
energy.
had to look out the window when
I
you
know.
said that.
I just ignored it. The Ben Zeitlin thing in Beast of the Southern Wild is weird and probably requires a little bit of interrogation. That was a big hit at Sundance, and it was released in the summer, and it did decent business for a
did
movie
well.
with
It did
no
well.
stars, and obviously Convention A. Wallace became a bit of a
thing for a minute.
that year.
Never had one conversation about that movie since 2013.
I remember like Chris Ryan was a huge fan, and I think it did a
There's
lot
our,
of like.
there's our first problem.
Well, it did a lot of like. Well, you're,
the king
you're
of
Mi-
Dunk. The Dunkirk thing kills me with Chris Ryan.
That's your Miami Vice brother.
I know
so you
it
gotta
is,
keep that in
and
mind.
it's my proof
You
of life.
don't
brother.
want to lose that. You
know.
definitely don't want to lose your proof of life,
No, I
brother.
don't want. I have no other proof for life, brothers.
I think people thought it was like a formal achievement because he had no money and he made something that was magically real. That was the idea.
It's definitely
Congratulations.
something, and it is a kind of achievement. I just don't believe in that movie.
Really, they have an award for it. It's called the Independent Spirit Awards. I think part of the problem is that there were so many good director choices, and we don't know how they do the votes. If it's just first place and most first place votes wins, or
Yeah, I mean that's
How that
not a
goes?
weighted ballot. I
not.
think it's a typical ballot.
so if you had 9 different camps and everybody's getting 11% of the vote, who the hell knows?
I can't believe
Who
this
should
was-
have won.
This was Ang's second Oscar. That's so weird.
Yeah.
This is really a really weird win.
Yeah. I mean that's why I didn't think he was.
Who would
gonna
you have
win.
voted for? Yeah, everyone's on the table, Sean.
Definitely PTA. Because that's the big vision. That's
Yeah.
the super auteur movie that is like
Yeah.
I believe in something and I'm gonna see it through fully, no matter how weird it is.
I have that too.
I agree.
Of the 5 people, what's funny is Tarantino probably would have been my second choice, and I think Bigelow would have been my third choice. I don't have any of the 5 nominees in my top
Moonrise
3.
Kingdom is
Bizarre.
is Wes Anderson's best movie.
He basically got the nod for that on Grand Budapest Hotel.
Right.
They kind of carried that over.
Actor,
yeah.
DDL won for Lincoln. Cooper in Silver Linings Playbook. He's really good in that movie.
He's
Yeah.
really good.
I don't think I realized his full name was Patrizio Pat Solitano Jr. Did you know he was a Patrizio?
I did not. Well, thank God they didn't beat us over the head with that because they'd have lost me. Patrizio, really?
Joaquin Phoenix in The Master is Freddie Quell. Denzel in Flight, which we're going to talk about in a second.
Whit
and then just a travesty of a 5th nominee, Hugh Jackman for Les Mis.
I don't.
Fuck that shit. Fuck Hugh Jackman. Fuck that movie.
Explain the Russell Crowe, Hugh Jackman market correction. That's a great take.
No,
Well-
Russell Crowe can't sing and dance.
Well,
don't
but
see
here,
that one.
but
30
this is-
odd foot of grunts
but
would tell you otherwise. His band.
Here's the thing about their careers, though. This is the first time Hugh Jackman had actually been able to do that in a movie.
Right.
Like nobody, all these dummies. I mean, with all due respect to the dummies in Hollywood, all the dummies in Hollywood wanted him to like be Wolverine and do things that were like Wolverine in other movies. Nobody wanted him to be the thing that Meg Ryan saw in that
The Boy from Oz.
shitty comedy that like the last of the romantic comedies she made, where they have to time travel Hugh Jackman into the present to satisfy the Meg Ryan urge for love.
Oh, good luck
And
there.
Yeah, Kate and Leopold.
and Kate and Leopold, and he became Wolverine and he stayed Wolverine, and then finally, but on Broadway, I mean, everybody knows that Hugh Jackman has jazz hands. That's not a euphemism or a metaphor.
Right.
He likes musicals, and that's not a euphemism or a metaphor either. And I just feel like this is the first movie that lets him do that.
Okay, great. He shouldn't have been nominated.
He's really good for the first
predict,
hour.
It did predict too, like what the back half of his career is going to be. Like
Right.
The Greatest Showman is a huge hit. It's a
Right.
surprise
Now,
hit.
if he got nominated for that, I wouldn't have been offended.
Well, that would be a problem because he's not good in it. But the
Well,
movie,
I'm just saying, at least
does
that
put
movie
him,
was good.
It does put him to like the best use.
So you think Django is so good, yet you don't think any of the actors should have been nominated?
I think DiCaprio should have been nominated, and I think Jamie Foxx should. And I think Samuel
that's my
L.
question.
Jackson should have been nominated.
All right,
for that
we're
movie.
getting
It's
that.
insane
We're not
that
in
Leo and
supporting.
Samuel L. Jackson and Jamie Foxx are not nominated.
Well, that's the thing. So Jamie Foxx, I'm giving you the Hugh Jackman spot here.
That's fine.
I'm
Jamie
going to
Foxx
protect the other four. I'm protecting
Yes.
Day-Lewis. I'm protecting Phoenix, Denzel, and Cooper. So that fifth spot could be Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx.
It could be Jake Gyllenhaal in end of Watch.
I wouldn't do that, but I support you as you know as a Jake Gyllenhaal.
I'm a
fan.
humongous end of Watch fan, and I think that's been, as the years pass, kind of the lost one that gains steam.
David Ayer's career has not aged that well. The director
No,
of that movie.
that's
He
true.
made Suicide Squad. He made Bright last year. At that time, I was like, this guy might be the new Michael Mann.
That was kind of, what was the Pattinson movie this year? Good Time?
Good time.
That was kind of the good time of that year.
Yeah, they
it was
have some
good.
things
It
in
was under the
common.
radar.
Yeah.
Everybody liked it, and it just
very propulsive. I mean, he did a thing too where he was kind of iterating on found footage and what horror movies were doing at that time, and tried to apply it, even though he broke the rules of it a lot.
That
I
didn't
like that
bother
movie.
you about that movie, by the way. That's
it broke the rule?
the found footage thing. That was that movie's big flaw. To me.
Yeah.
Everything else worked except for that.
the cops are good. All right,
and
so
Michael
we think
Pena are
Jamie Foxx
great.
for that fifth spot.
Can I just say, like, this Oscar sucked. Like, what were they doing? These
Well, that's why we're
nominations
doing
are
this.
Terrible.
They're
What?
really bad.
Oh, they've missed so many things
they-
here. I mean, there's so many choices that I
Yeah.
would have just gone the other way. Like every year, you're like, oh, this is annoying. This person got snubbed. This one in particular, I'm like, how are Jamie Foxx and Leo not nominated, and Hugh Jackman is nominated?
Well, Hugh Jackman.
This is why we're doing this.
DiCaprio goes in the supporting category.
Yes. Okay.
All right,
Right.
so let's.
Jamie Foxx. I was disappointed that didn't happen.
I think if this is 5 years later, I think he gets it.
He gets nominated.
gets a
I think the
Slot,
voters are much more concerned now about what obviously was happening here, where they just
That's fine.
voted for four white guys and Denzel.
But first of all, that is Denzel's. That is his best thing in a long time.
Well, so
at that point,
He's very good in this.
this is a great category.
it's
And
a
if you
great
put-
category. Even with Hugh Jackman in it, it's a great.
That top
it's a great
four is
category.
fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Who should have won?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
I really like DDL too.
I think Daniel Day-Lewis. It just like I wish I had some take against it. Like I
Can I
wish
make
had.
the case for Phoenix?
Of course you can.
What I grew up with De Niro when he went haywire with roles like that, and we were all like, "Oh my god, this is amazing, De Niro." For some reason, we don't do that with Phoenix,
No.
and I think he has a lot of baggage in a lot of different ways that doesn't help him. He did that crazy movie with Casey Affleck that didn't help. I don't remember if that was before or after this.
That was after this.
Doesn't
that
s-
was before this. That was before this.
It was before this movie,
yes,
right?
that movie was. I'm Not Here was before the.
Doesn't
Master.
seem like he has the weight, and it's almost like if this had been any other actor doing what he did in this movie, I think he wins. And it was like he got penalized for being him.
Yeah. I mean, in a weird
Daniel
way.
Day-Lewis was amazing. I'm not going to argue against that. Like it was not an impersonation. He did all the stuff he always does. But like, if he's going to win for Lincoln, then he should win for every movie. He should win for Phantom Thread this year because he's equally as good in every movie.
Right. Yes. Well, here's the.
So I don't know why this movie versus other movies, I guess, is my point.
Here's my one thing about the Oscars, though. I think if you're like, I mean, this will never happen, obviously, but I just feel like if you're playing a living person, you should go in a different acting category. Because I think the achievement, I think that what Denzel do and Joaquin Phoenix does and Bradley Cooper, all three of those guys, I just think playing an original character who doesn't have any
So
sort
creating
of
a character
pre-existing
from scratch.
I think what Joaquin Phoenix is doing things in this movie that I just have never seen an actor.
I
do.
agree. It's like it's kind of a heat check performance.
That moment where he goes under, and I remember people writing it off as like being a stunt, and the look on the people in the house, the other actors in the house as he's doing this, it's acting on the one hand, but it is real.
You mean from the window to the wall scene?
Yes, yes. Oh my god!
What about
that
all the
is
stuff
so
he
good.
does? What if the stuff he does with his body?
Oh,
Yeah.
That kid's like
everything.
weird,
Crooked
like
back.
I mean,
Yeah.
He's
I mean-
like a veteran. He's like a guy who is.
It's kind of hard. It's almost like we should have rolled his performance over to another year when we had a bad winner and given him that Oscar.
You know what's interesting
category.
too about this? there's something interesting about what Daniel Day-Lewis did this year in Phantom Thread that also kind of needed its own category, which is like we talk about creating a character from scratch, but like in Phantom Thread, he basically co-wrote the character with the writer-director, which is a different version of making up a character. And maybe Joaquin did this with PTA too, but that's just that's different. That's different from Denzel getting a script and saying, "I'm in."
Well, but yeah, I hear you, but I think you're refining my complaint.
Right.
Right? I mean, I feel like you and I are on the same page about this.
Yes.
As the arbiter, you both said the same thing.
Okay, great.
Best actress is the opposite of the best actor category. Jennifer Lawrence won for Silver Linings Playbook, which I had somehow blocked out of my mind. Chastain, Zero Dark 30, Sean's alternate universe wife. Emmanuel Riva in Amour. Beasts of the Southern Wild Lady.
Quvenzhané Wallace.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say it. And Naomi Watts got nominated for The Impossible, which was like a Netflix movie. It wasn't even like a real movie.
Wait, stop. Did you see it?
I did. It's good. And then the second half gets super fucking weird.
Yes, but listen, I hate this movie. I hate it with a raging passion. But part of what I hate about it is what it puts her and us through. I hate it morally and politically in the way it, like, who it prioritizes in terms of suffering.
Yeah.
But that opening 20 minutes it's great. Just, I have never been, it's so complicated, but like what it does to her and what she has to do, I don't know how much she actually suffered, but the, like, Naomi Watts can't be killed and is unconquerable even under the most horrific natural disaster circumstances. Holy shit.
The tsunami scene it's just absolutely horrifyingly petrifying.
Where it goes later,
yeah.
I think it's reprehensible, this movie.
It's definitely the first half hour of that movie sucks you in about as much of as an action movie is going to do it. I can't believe she got nominated. I had forgotten.
But any actor watching that is just like there before the grace of God, because I
don't even know who else really should have been nominated. It was just a typically horrible year for
It was a bad
actresses.
year for women.
Can I suggest a couple?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I'll save my hottest take. I think Marion Cotillard in Rust and Bone is like a really maybe the best thing she's ever done.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Not recognized.
So good. And this is sort of beside the point, but when you're a movie star, it counts. She's so sexy in that movie. She's missing a leg and is in utter control of every single scene. Okay. And it's true she's working with Matthias Schoenaerts, who is like a bull who needs somebody to ride him. But she's so good in that movie. It is such a great movie star performance.
My take is, I think Jennifer Lawrence should have been nominated for the Hunger Games and not for Silver Linings.
Oh, damn.
Because that's
the burn on my arm is...
That's the Jennifer Lawrence that I think is great. That's the Jennifer Lawrence that I'm interested in, who is steely and tough.
That's I also did love her in Hunger Games.
That's Winter's Bone Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah.
I don't know, though.
Steely.
I'm ready for that Jennifer Lawrence again.
She returns to it in
Red Sparrow.
Great.
Red Sparrow.
Sign me
which
up.
is a complicated movie, but she is going for it in that same vein.
Great.
But wait, can we talk about, before we move on?
Well, who should have won? You didn't tell me.
Oh, who should have won? Oh man,
I can't say Chastain.
It's Chastain in a walk for me. Like, it's not even close.
Oh, Emmanuel Riva.
I thought she was going to win.
I thought she was.
I would have said the Amour lady, Emmanuel Riva.
Yeah, Emmanuel Riva of those five.
That movie really, really was affecting.
It's very crushing.
That would have been a good way to honor that movie too. Yeah. I would have voted for her. Supporting actor Christopher Waltz won for Django. I don't know how.
Car crash.
Alan Arkin, Argo, which is like bizarre that he even got nominated.
It's
De
infuriating.
Niro for Silver Linings Playbook, which was just a career achievement.
He's good in that, though.
Yeah, I mean,
he's good in that.
This was a good category this year. Tommy Lee Jones, Lincoln, and then the one that I just can't believe didn't win, Hoffman in The Master. But then also Leo didn't get nominated, and Samuel L. Jackson didn't get nominated.
Jackson is just how you can watch that movie And it clearly demonstrates to me that those people didn't know what that movie was about, for one thing.
I think they were
and they were
probably scared of it.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, I
they
think
were
the
uncomfortable. They
uncomfortable thing
picked the
made it.
guy who was the most morally correct, quote unquote. And
It's ludicrous.
it's ludicrous to me. I feel like Christoph Waltz should break that Oscar in half, mail half to Sam Jackson, and mail the other half to Leonardo DiCaprio, because that movie clearly made voters uncomfortable. As uncomfortable as it made people who watched it.
I think he's the fourth person I would have honored in that movie after the top three, even for a nomination.
I would have
Kerry
honored Kerry
Washington
Washington.
is better than
I would,
he
Yeah.
is.
I would have given it to Kerry Washington.
It's
shit.
just
Who did Kerry Washington get boned over? So Anne Hathaway went
Well,
for Les Mis.
that
Amy
category
Adams
is
in
too
The Master.
strong to include
Kerry
Sarah
Washington
Washington.
doesn't have a lot of screen time.
She doesn't, yeah, but when she's
great.
there, she's great.
Anne Hathaway, Les Mis won. Amy Adams, The Master. Sally Field, Lincoln. Helen Hunt, The Sessions.
Yeah.
Jackie Weaver, Silver Linings.
That's the other person who
Pretty
got
sure we could have made
who
room
got
for Kerry
screwed that
Washington
year.
in there.
I
I think we could have made room for Kerry Washington in
Well,
there.
I mean, I'm
These are
open to
good.
that, but I think
This
John Hawkes is the other person
for
who
Best Actor.
seemed like a lot to win the Oscar.
That's wild that he wasn't
Remember
nominated.
That? Yeah, John Hawkes plays the guy in The Sessions who lives in the box. He's the guy that she's sex surrogating Helen Hunt is in that movie, and it's a classic Oscar winner performance. There's a person with a disability who learns to access an aspect of himself that he hasn't previously accessed because of the disability.
I didn't like that movie.
I'm not
I
wild
didn't like
about it
it
either.
either.
It's a great performance.
But-
But
wasn't
I'm
an
just,
enjoyable movie.
It just seemed like, I mean, that's how strong those other five guys are that John Hawkes got kept out of
So
it.
we all think Hoffman for supporting. Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but can we just go back to Samuel L. Jackson for 1 second? Because
You've
I
done
think
Sam Jackson supporting.
I feel like we take this guy for granted. Now he says things that he shouldn't say.
Does a lot of commercials.
He does a lot of Capital One
fine.
commercials.
Good
I
money.
don't
pigeonholed with as an action movie guy.
Well, he works too much to really be He's pigeonholed to Samuel L. Jackson. And I think that was the thing that worked against him. I also think he just played a character that freaked people out. The movie basically blames black people's relationship to white people on another black person.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? It lays the slavery problem at the foot of what we would classically call an Uncle Tom.
I think you're right that the Academy was really uncomfortable with trying to reckon with Stephen and Calvin Candy and their relationship and what that meant.
Yeah.
And to identify it would have been a real issue. So I think you're right. It's a bummer, though. The two of them are so good.
They're
And they make that movie in a way that Christoph Waltz doesn't. Christoph Waltz is great. He's always great. He does the same thing. He's doing the same performance in every movie.
Yeah,
He is like
I mean-
exuberant and not to be trusted until he is.
I think we figured him out.
Yeah.
Supporting
Phil-
actress.
But yeah, of the Amy Adams and
So
Sally
we're
Field.
just giving the master all the way around.
It's the best acting you're gonna see in a movie, just almost period. I mean, even Laura Dern in her one scene on the porch is really good.
I'll tell you one thing.
And Rami Malek is really good.
Yes.
I'll tell you one thing. Anne Hathaway not winning would have been the best thing that could have happened to her career.
I
as crazy as that
I
sounds.
disagree. And
Okay.
I'm going to ride for Anne Hathaway
Yeah.
even though I don't care for Les
think
Mis.
I think she's good. And this
She
is not
talked to
about
you at
her
a Jacoby
performance.
party one time for
that
3
may
minutes.
have happened. I think, one, I'm going to ride for her acceptance speech, which was widely
really-
derided at the time and I thought was nice.
I thought it was nice too.
And
People are just assholes.
she's
How about that?
aspirational. That is
Yeah.
her whole thing. Is she wants it. She's
I'm
a
pro
little
Anne
thirsty,
Hathaway.
and
Yeah.
that's okay. It's okay to want to be great. She tries really hard, and when it hits, I think she's excellent, and she's made good movies since then.
Yeah, Mark Lasanti the day after wrote a really great thing for Grantland about wanting it and how much she wanted it, and he was really
sorry,
right.
you're ambitious. When did ambition become a bad quality?
Well, I think for a lot of people,
people are turned off by it. It's like, oh, this Anne Hathaway, she really wants it. It's like, so what?
Who cares? It's the highest honor.
There's a theater geek aspect to her that is so apparent, and you never really see in a world full of theater geeks, you never see somebody just never give that aspect of themselves up.
Let's
And I think
quickly go through original screenplay. Django won. Other nominees were More, Flight, Moonrise Kingdom, Zero Dark 30. The Master not nominated.
Is this Tarantino's only win?
He went for Pulp Fiction.
He did win for Pulp. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
with Roger Avery,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Yeah, I mean,
Bizarre. It's just bizarre that that's what they chose
But
to
that's
honor.
what they do.
Yeah.
That's what they
it's
do.
just completely illogical. Doesn't
It's
make
completely
sense.
illogical.
Who do you think should have won?
It's between. I think Moonrise Kingdom is the best screenplay of those five, and I'm a big. And I think a more. While it doesn't seem like there's a lot going on in that writing, there's a couple sequences that, like on the page, just writing about the pigeon in the hallway, and there's just so many great passages that can only come from writing. In that movie, I think it's the best. I think it's the best written of those five movies. But Moonrise Kingdom has.
I don't
the
have
most
I don't
delightful
have an own personal answer for this because I never understand what the parameters are for original screenplay, and it just seems to change year to year, and I don't even know
Yeah.
what they
I
look
don't
for.
understand why Flight is nominated here.
That's what I mean. Like, why is Flight on there, but
It's-
The Master isn't?
Yeah, I find that screenplay embarrassing. Actually,
The third act is weird.
yeah, and well, that sequence in
Yeah,
the
but
stairwell.
Wesley and I ride for Flight.
I think it's pretty
the
good.
movie. Yeah,
but
it's a
like,
good
is
movie.
the screenplay the thing you walk away from
No,
thinking that's what's great about
that,
it? It's like
to me,
really
that's
well
a-
made. It's
that's
amazing
a Denzel movie,
Yeah.
start to finish.
And I
It's
think
just
it's like
I like
good
Denzel.
Zemeckis and all the scenes when he's in the plane are fantastic.
Yeah.
But when it turns into like AA karaoke, it's not. It doesn't work.
Adapted Argo won. It beat Beasts of the Southern Wild, Life of Pi, Lincoln, and Silver Linings Playbook. I'm fine with that. That was probably a hard movie to kind of figure out
Formally,
how
yes.
to take different pieces from and turn it into a script.
This is a pretty mighty Tony Kushner.
Yeah,
screenplay.
I just don't understand what went on there.
Yeah.
I can't believe
You would
it.
have gone Lincoln?
This is like
This is-
one of the five greatest living playwrights writing at his peak.
At his peak.
Like-
That screenplay, and one of the most pleasurable things about the shots people fired at that script was his defense of it, which was totally cogent to me. The liberties he was proud to have taken with the Connecticut senators, with the Connecticut congressmen and their vote against for the 13th Amendment.
Well, here's what I understand. Then why didn't it just win Best Picture too?
I don't think people loved the movie, but I think to not acknowledge that it is just like a thunderously written
It's a
movie.
really well written screenplay. I'm sorry.
Okay, I still don't understand the parameters for that category.
Well, I mean,
For adapted screenplay?
Well, adapted screenplay to me is like, I don't know, what is the first part of, what am I judging it on?
There's
Am I
always
judging it by how difficult it was to adapt? Or am I judging it just by this script is good? Oh, and it was adapted. Like
It could be one
seems
or
like
the
it's
other.
either, depending on the movie.
One or the other or both. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking in terms. I think that also they wanted to honor Argo as an achievement. I think that was when I knew it was going to really win Best Picture.
Argo, this one is interesting because it's based on two different things. And
Right.
You don't see that very often. You don't see him pulling or a writer pulling from two different
I
sources.
think it was a really hard movie to figure out.
I agree. In another year, it would probably go on a walk. Tony Kushner wrote an amazing movie. That's
Cam Collins is here. So we're redoing the 2013 Oscars. You
Right.
joined us late. And our big takeaway is that The Master was the most underrated movie of this year. What is your take?
Totally. I was agreeing with everything you guys were saying as I was listening. Currently writing about the same thing. Yeah, all the acting awards. I don't think that Philip Seymour Hoffman is a supporting actor.
No, that's the other thing about that category.
Oh, you think there was supporting actor
I totally
crime?
forgot. It's been so long
Co-best
since
actor.
I've seen it. Like how he's in the supporting category.
Doesn't
by
make
the way,
sense.
makes no sense. Good point.
I think it's
that's
just
really
doesn't
true.
make
he's
sense.
not in the first 25 minutes of the movie, and that's probably
People are
why.
dumb.
Right. He's
Come
not,
on.
He's not the one humping the sand, but like,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, also that could have been a campaign thing to get him out of the
I
way or
agree.
whatever. But like, yeah, I mean, Jamie Foxx is coming in 6th for me. Philip Seymour Hoffman is going back up to the best actor category. Sorry, Jamie Foxx, but.
Oh, so you're flipping now.
No, he's right. I forgot that. I mean, my memory, I don't remember being as outraged for as long as I have been about other supporting actor issues. But this is definitely one of those things where the category parameters got fudged in order to get him out of one category and into another. And it didn't even work out because they wanted to give him the fucking Oscar.
It didn't work at the Oscars.
Christoph
It didn't work
Waltz.
at any show or any award, right? It just didn't. It didn't
Do you
pan
think
out.
5 years later, Django underrated, overrated, properly rated? What has been the legacy?
What is the consensus? That it's good? That it's fine?
We actually thought it was
I
a little
think it's
underrated.
great.
After
I
the
think
fact.
it's great. My
think
mind
it's-
is not
I can't divorce it from liking Inglourious Bastards a little more. But I think Django's really interesting.
And I think that is historically how it will be remembered. It's like Inglourious Bastards, as time goes on, for a lot of people that I have talked to, think of that as his second achievement behind Pulp Fiction.
Oh, really?
And
Have they seen Death Proof?
I love Death
Have they
Proof.
seen Jackie Brown?
Death Proof is
Jackie
very,
Brown.
very hard
Don't get
to
Sean started on
reconcile
Jackie
with
Brown.
in this context, though. Because of everything that happened with the Uma Thurman story and all that. I mean, that movie looks like it was made as a reflection of his experience on Kill Bill. And that is a tough way to absorb that movie. Jackie
Yeah.
Brown, I'm with you. Jackie Brown
Yeah.
kicks ass. That movie's phenomenal.
Did that
It's
get
great.
any nominations for anything? Oh, it did.
Jackie
Robert
Brown?
Forster.
Robert Forster.
nominated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a very strange Oscars. A very, very
This might
strange
be
Oscars.
So here's my one big theory. This might have been the last Oscars before the internet writing became good enough and the voters became savvy enough to kind of read things and find things and be like, oh, I should do this. That guy makes some good points. Or that girl makes some good points, whatever. Because the Oscars started making a lot more sense after this year.
The following year is the 12 Years a Slave Gravity year, which is a really interesting Oscars that I don't think this wouldn't be as fun a podcast about that Oscars.
Yeah.
You know, there were a lot of good choices that were made, for lack of a better phrase, that were not made here.
Best director, if we had to do it over again 5 years later, Cam, PTA?
Yeah.
Or would you go Tarantino, Affleck, Bigelow?
Okay, well,
Spielberg?
not Affleck. Not for this.
That was funny. There's such an outcry with Affleck, and meanwhile, he probably wasn't one of the best 5 directors.
No. Well, that was the weird thing about the outcry. It was like, well, you guys think they were trying to make him the next Warren Beatty. I
Right.
even bought that a little bit. That
Right.
this is it. Like, he made this movie that's not that great, but it's not that great. It's not
Can I
that
have-
great in the way that a Warren Beatty movie generally is not
Can
that
I have
great.
your Warren Beatty stock for Affleck?
You want to take it?
Yeah.
No, I'm not giving it to you.
Sean, do you have any?
Warren Beatty never would have played Batman.
Wow.
Warren Beatty
I mean,
played
true.
Dick Tracy.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
was a flex only Warren Beatty could pull
Yeah,
off. No
that's
one
true.
had Dick Tracy on the brain.
Here's-
Batman was too high a grasp
This is what
and
you guys
too low
you guys
at
don't
an angle.
understand. Affleck was just trying to impress his kids. Warren Beatty didn't have kids. He wasn't thinking that way. He had no kids, right?
Not at
Not at
that
that time.
point.
No. Affleck's just trying to. You
He
get
was
to
still
a
dating
point you're trying to
Madonna.
impress your kids.
God, I love Warren Beatty.
Yeah.
I do too.
He's made some bad movies.
I don't
Of
care.
course. Who has
I like
it?
him too.
He made
What's your
Reds
favorite
and
Warren-
Heaven Can Wait. He's good.
Heaven Can Wait is my favorite Warren Beatty movie.
Shampoo is your favorite Warren Beatty.
Heaven Can Wait should come back as a Netflix series.
Sure.
He's
Should he
just
be
going
involved?
in a different
with a different
bodies each
scenario? Yeah,
episode.
yeah, I was gonna say.
Sometimes it's 3. That'd be great. Oh, he's going to be a tech millionaire this time. Oh, great. Oh, he's going to be a barista at Starbucks.
You know
This
what?
isn't going to go well. He's going to leave this body.
Parallax View is another one that could come back as a weekly series under the current,
They're making 3 Days
reality.
of the Condor as Condor, a TV show.
All right. We're
story.
going to wrap this up. Kudos to the master. I think I'm glad we did this though, and I really think this would be a good idea for them to do this, even though I know they never will. I think it needs about 5 years to decide what's good, what
Yeah,
what
we have
resonated
no
with them.
anxiety about like Terrell Owens and Randy Moss getting into the Hall of Fame. They deserve to go. That was obvious.
Right.
If we had tried to put them up the first year, people would have been like, I don't like those guys that much. They might have to wait.
Terrell Owens, bad teammates.
Yeah.
I still don't feel 100% of the Terrell Owens thing.
Okay.
I mean, he was a
Different podcast.
cancer.
Yeah.
He was a cancer. He quit on teams. I guess it's fine. Time heals
No,
all
that's
wounds.
not fine.
Thank you, Wesley. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Cam. All right. Thanks to Shoemaker. Thanks to Sean. Thanks to Cam. Thanks to Wesley. Don't forget to go to the Ringer NBA show. I hosted today's episode because all of our dudes were out. If you want to listen to that, just go to the Ringer NBA show. Thanks to ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. My listeners can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/BS. Thanks to Gillette. Get Gillette Performance delivered to your door. No more getting mad at yourself because you just got back from the grocery store and realized you forgot to buy blades. Subscribe today. Pick your favorite razor. Get every 4th order for free. Visit Gillette online at GilletteOnDemand.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Recapables, launching this week with Atlanta Season 1 Recap Award Show already up. Back later in the week with more.